I'm also very keen to see the sort of spread of ages we've got, and you know, the fact that we do have a whole lot of Gen Y practitioners here, and no satin boxer sorts in sight, which is fantastic. But also a lot of traditional practitioners and older practitioners who are probably seeing a great deal of similarity between this and the whole focus on integrated comms that we've had that has been sort of part of our stable fare for a long time. Is this really a whole new era, or is this just a wonderful new addition to the toolkit, toy box of things we've got to play with? Someone who might be able to add another point of view is our next speaker, Richard Giles. Richard is the CEO of Recommendation Ventures, which is a search engine service that has been developed and has been nominated as one of the top 10 Web 2 applications in Australia. Now, Richard is kind of very well known to most of the PR industry here, and he has had a long association and support for us over about the past 10 years. And in particular, I know he's accredited with being Australia's first podcaster and the author of a book on Flickr. So please welcome Richard Giles.
Morning. So 10 minutes to tell everybody about social media. It's a long time. I want to ask a couple of questions again. So a bit of interaction. Aussies hate it. That's part of the reason why people don't like blogs here in Australia, because we're not vocal. But real simple questions. Who here has got a MySpace account? Right? Who's got a Facebook account? Yep. Who's got a LinkedIn account? Who uses Twitter? Not bad. And who has a blog? Okay. So Facebook's the popular one, which I did a presentation at ECU on Friday, and funnily enough, Facebook was the most popular as well. And it's probably about the same, to be honest with you. Probably a little bit more in some of them, but in general, it seemed to be about the same. So, anyway, I'm going to talk about the day in the life of social media and sort of the stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis. But I guess the first point I wanted to make was that, you know, public relations just got harder. And by that I mean it takes more time, because, to be honest with you, in some respects it's actually easier because it's all about common sense. And so that's what I'm going to try and explain to some degree, although I'm going to go through some of the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis. The other point I want to make is that social media isn't for every situation, and some industries it's going to be less important to. I happen to work in the technology industry, and that's all we do, right? So it's pretty easy for me to get up here and talk about all the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis. Some industries it's not going to work really well for, but it can be quite powerful if you think about some of the ways that you can use some of the social media tools outside of the box. And the other one is social media is a lifestyle choice. It's kind of one of my favourite sayings recently, because you kind of have to live it. And when you get involved in the social media, if you're not living in these social media situations, people know, and it's all about consistency and authenticity and transparency, and realistically that's how you live your life. So living your life online in social media is kind of the way to do it best. So anyway, a few of the things that I use. One of the first things I do when I get up in the morning, sometimes I do it before I get up in the morning, is I check news sites and sometimes echo search. I'll get onto echo searches in a second. Now, I use a particular website called techmeme.com, which gives me all the technology news I need to know pretty well on a daily basis, because it aggregates all the news and it gets the information based on how popular that particular, say, blog or news article is that day, or probably within the last few hours. So it's pretty easy for me. And I don't really now use RSS aggregators, but RSS aggregators or news aggregators, and there's that RSS term that if you don't know what it means, you better find out. It is a really good way of actually finding out information very quickly. And one of those is Google Reader. I'm going to probably pitch a few Google products at you, but you get on Google Reader and you can give it, or bookmark essentially, a bunch of different websites that you like to follow and read in a particular industry. And rather than having to go to those websites, it will bring that information to you when it changes, and only the changes. So today's latest headlines, what have you. So you can go through, several hundred blogs or news sites pretty well within minutes, because all you need to do is skim the headlines and figure out what's important. So that's aggregators and news sites, and echo searches are similar to vanity searches where you go and Google your own name. Well, echo searches are, I guess, a similar concept, except it's for, say, a product, a person, a brand, or what have you. Google Alerts, Google Alerts, and you'll find that you can enter in some keywords like you would in a search, but it will actually email you either on a daily basis or instantly as soon as it picks up those keywords that are mentioned in blogs or websites. So for my own company, I actually have Recommendation Ventures, Richard Giles, Scouter. I've got all of those in Google Alerts so that it emails me instantly as soon as it hears something. And I also do it for some of my customers as well, so I can keep up to date with them pretty quickly. Another way is, and I'll talk a bit more about Twitter shortly, but you can go into Twitter and do a search, and you can search again for keywords. And it's interesting to see the conversations that happen around things, like, say, you go and do a search for stock market or earthquake, when there's an earthquake, and you can see some, quite interesting conversations that are happening around those topics. It's not tomorrow, but it's tomorrow US time, but if you go on Wednesday morning, first thing Wednesday morning, go to Twitter search and do a search for Apple. And you'll see a whole bunch of people talking about, Apple's new computers that are going to be launched in a day or so. And you'll see a lot of conversations about it because everybody loves Apple online. I won't talk too much about blogging because we've heard about that in a good degree, but I guess I wanted to reiterate it's all about the conversations. And so, but one of the things that you can do with blogs, you don't have to have one, although, in certain situations it's great to, but get involved in conversations on other people's blogs. And it does a couple of things. One, you being involved in that community and actually having conversations, and that's really important, and people start to recognise who you are. But if you also happen to have a website or a blog, you also start to, give it some Google use, as they call it. So you actually send traffic your way or give yourself some extra page rank based on, it's one of the tricks, by the way. Let's see, yeah, that's probably the major parts about blogging. But it's the conversations, literally, that's what blogging is all about. In fact, almost all of social media is all about conversations.